So with the frames made, I sort of moved over onto the grass, and as you can see, split these tables apart so I could paint it without painting the tables too much. And yes, I know the bench needs a refurb, another job to do. So I got my sander out, sanded it all down, as you can see where I filled it. Came up quite well, looking great. And then I took all the arises off where I needed to. Well, all the way around really, because you don't want splinters in your hand if you have to handle them. And there we are, we started painting. I put them on a couple of blocks with some couple of tea towels over to stop it sort of marking them as well. And yeah, worked well like this, absolutely. Pleased with this. And it's time for lunch, and the time it took me to eat the lunch and get it ready, they're dried, where I painted them with the emulsion. And if you recognise it, it's from upstairs, which all the edge that I painted upstairs in the loft. So I then changed tack and put them on my garden chairs there, just to paint the underside, which worked really, really well. And then it was a case of picking up the in-between one and painting that. So similar thing, put them on a couple of blocks with the old tea towels, painted away, lovely. And took the time to glue up the last one of these to let the paint go off a bit. Tried the under frame on to see that it all sort of worked, which it did, pretty good. And as you can see, it sort of lines up with the end of that top, which is what I was doing, one at each end, and I've got the one in the middle just in case. What was weird was this top was hollow. It was hitting at the ends, and as you can see, there's a gap in the middle. It was also not quite level on that back corner, but to try and adjust the unit made it all rocky, so I've just had to put that under there. Whether I'll fix it to it, I don't know yet. So then it was a case of putting the MDF back on and putting the in-between frame in after painting it, obviously. I didn't paint the top because that's going to be glued, so I didn't need to paint that, so it was alright. And then I put the final top on, so it's ready to go. So they're not looking too bad. And obviously I will paint the edges of the MDF when the time comes, but I might even put a fascia on this, don't know yet. But it doesn't look too bad, I don't think. So got the level out, well, in between sort of doing, and yeah, it's all pretty level, so I'm quite happy. Both longitudinal and from front to back, so quite good, I would say. Pleased. So a new bit of equipment now on the workmate, the belt sander. So I thought I'd use this to sort of clean up those blocks at the bottom the easy way, rather than planing them and everything, and then sand these up. So yeah, that's what we've got to do. So just a little bit of footage I've shot of me doing it. As you can see, it takes a bit of time, but it doesn't do a bad job, does it? You know? So I'm going to try and do the long way now. Let's see how that goes. So with all those legs cleaned up and done, get the old little platforms out, but always time for a mug of tea, isn't there? Especially for me. So I enjoyed that. Weather a bit overcast, not particularly warm. So I decided to drill all the holes, and this is what I did. It's always worth writing on, so that you don't get lost and put it round the wrong way. So as you can see, fairly clear there. Remember, this wasn't painted because it's going to be glued to the MDF. So I've drilled around, obviously more screws where the pieces were jointed. And then I got quite a few in there because it's got to hold it on. And then I always give it a little bit of a sandpaper to take any fur off and whatever, because that can stop it going and coming up tightly. Make sure you countersink it well. In fact, later on I had to re-countersink these because there wasn't quite enough. But on the painted side, not on the back side. And then yes, it was a case of having that ready now to be screwed on. So and still more to countersink, of course. There's never always a hole somewhere. Tried the screwing just to see how that would go, and I thought at this stage it would be okay. And there's a view underneath when you've seen that, so you can see it's slightly under, hopefully, and it's coming out reasonable. Remember, it's only going into 9mm MDF, so it's going to be not a huge grip, but it should pull it down, hopefully. And this is the countersink I used to do it. They work quite well, these ones, I find. And again, just give it a rub over just to take any furs off. All helps. Now the boards were perched up against my hedge, and they were sitting on some tea towels so that they didn't damage the edge, as you can see. So it's a case of thinking what you're doing, isn't it, really, I think, And luckily it wasn't windy, so it did. Now, the edge of the board I was going to glue these to was all rough from the saw. So I decided it was worth giving it a little plane with my block plane there and a little hand sand. I didn't want to do it with a machine because it might have dug it in or whatever. It's quite soft MDF. And I had to take the masking tape off the frames that have been holding it together, which, it's not stuck anyway. And one end came off easily and this end didn't. I'll show you how the other one came off. There it is, all in one bit. And I think it's because one end I'd wrapped the masking tape round the front and then painted over it. So yeah, you learn. And you can actually see where the paint was, or rather the masking tape was stopping the paint going on there, but that'll be painted again, that'll be alright. So there we are, we were ready to really get these to be glued, but I wasn't going to do that. I thought with the weather, I thought it was worth getting on with these leg frames. So having cleaned them, as you saw earlier on, I decided to get them drilled. I'd already marked them out, and in fact the side where the marks were, I didn't actually sand it because I might have beveled it or whatever. And then yeah, they were all drilled and countersunk as needed, and then it was ready to put them together. So you might be wondering why the mats were there, and it's because the edge is raised above the level of the thing, so I needed just to pack them up so I could cramp them on flat. And then believe it or not, it was time for lunch, so I thought I'd have the double Gloucester cheese in it this time, not toasted, just as it is. Some Branston pickle to give it a bit more flavour, goes well. And there we are, and I sat outside. It wasn't great, but with the woolly on I was warm enough, and it saves cleaning yourself up. So I decided to film this for you a bit. So it's a bit of normal speed and then speed it up. So I hope you enjoy this. I won't try and talk over it, I don't think. Alright, but plenty of glue on both faces and work your way. And you can see me doing the cramps. Well, you might hear the kettle boiling in the kitchen. It's time for tea. But I put the box under the clamps because you can locate the cross member and sort of get it in the right place for you. What the screws in. So I was using 7 2x5 wood screws, as you've seen earlier on. Yeah, they went in quite well. I was quite pleased with them. So I pulled it up, and what you want, isn't it? Glue going everywhere. And just give it all a bit of a clean up with a damp rag, wipe all the glue off. Now put it down, and I've forgotten to wipe that off because it builds up if you leave it there, and then you can't get it flat. So now a bit of fast stuff, just to show you how we were going. So here we are, both frames together. Clean up my mats and tidy up. Sort out the glue. Thought it might be worth just wiping the top there so it don't build up. Stick the lid on, and then obviously take the brush and clean it. And then I thought, well, it's worth filling it. So I filled all the screw holes on it, as you can see. I always leave a load over because if you just flush it off, it usually sinks, and then you've got to fill it again. So if you leave a lot on, you can just sand it off. I mean, you've got to leave it long enough to dry, obviously. So yeah, gets it done, doesn't it? And there they are, waiting. They're drying and just sitting there, and that was really the end of my day. I was going to leave it at that, I think. So the following day, as you can see, pretty cold outside, 1 degree. This is sort of before 9 o'clock in the morning, so I thought it was worth, rather than going outside, to get this frame glued to the MDF. So that's what I decided to do. The way I did it is I did some screws to locate it to start with before putting any glue on, to see how it got on. Did find that the countersinks weren't actually quite deep enough, so I used this massive reamer to make them a bit deeper. Because it wasn't going into much MDF, and this shows you how it puckers out when you pull the screw into it, which is why I countersink the other side. So get the glue out. I didn't have to fill up the pot, there was quite a lot in there, so that's fine. And then I just liberally brushed on all over on the unpainted side, really, isn't it? Yeah, ready to go. So then it was a case of turning it over and putting it on, and putting in the screws that I'd already put in to sort of locate it, and then just work my way along, really. And as I said, I'd already countersunk them a bit more before I sort of glued it. So you can see quite a bit of glue oozed out, which is good, isn't it? It means it's sort of really stuck. So get another cloth, a damp cloth, and give it all a good clean, which I did, as you can see. So there we are. So going to be a bit of film of me talking to you, which I haven't done much on these, have I? So I hope you like that, and see how we get on. Well, everybody, it's just after 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm pleased that I've now glued the frame onto the MDF top coat, top skin, if you like. It seems to have pulled up reasonably well, as you saw with the pictures on the old camera that I've been using. And really the next thing to do is obviously let that go off. Now, it being only about 10 degrees in here, so 50 Fahrenheit, you know, it's probably going to take a while to go off. It's not going to go off in the 10 minutes that I said, you know, in a previous video. So I need to leave it to go off and don't do anything with it. I've cleaned it off, as you can see, with a rag. Yeah, I'm happy with that. There's a little bit of trimming to do at the back where the board is sitting over the frame, but that's not a problem. I'll just plane that off. So the next thing really to do is sort of clean these up, you know, where I've polyfilled them, or rather tetragened them. I don't know how you say that actually. Tetragen it is, Tetron. So it's quite a good filler, and it's quite an old one, that. So I had to sort of put a bit of water in it, shall we say, and get it to work. But yeah, I'm happy that it's now sort of nice and solid. So I think I'm going to do it on that drum sander that I had, because it's going to be a lot easier, a lot quicker. I'll do it in the garden so all the dust goes everywhere, and be fine. And then once I get them cleaned up and harassed and everything, I can paint that, and then hopefully I can then give that a little bit of a clean up and maybe paint that, although I may wait until I've got the bottom skin on, which would probably make more sense. So obviously with the bottom skin that is only going to be loose, I've got to make sure I don't hit any of the other screws. So it's a bit of marking out. So I'm going to do that, and then we are getting on. You know, I can get the feet maybe sorted on these frames, and maybe put those under and get me tripods back. So we'll see how we go. But I'm quite happy. But it's far too cold. It's still only about 3 degrees centigrade outside there, and I'm not going to work out there. It's not worth it, is it? Might as well let it warm up. Sun's out, so hopefully it'll warm it up a bit. So there we are. But we're getting on. We're getting on. So keep watching. And it's probably going to be the next episode now. But I'm happy how I'm progressing. And the weather's been reasonably kind. So I'd like to thank any new subscribers that have come on. I know I always do it at the end and not the beginning. But yeah, I've had a few new subscribers, so quite happy with that. Thank you. I hope you stay with me. Cheers.